Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is Jim Joined once again by my co-host, Cody Taylor. Cody, how are you on this Sunday evening?
It is, James. Sorry, I was absent there like the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. We'll get into that shortly. Oh my Lanta, what a horrible game. I'm doing all right, James. How are you, sir?
A little under the weather today, but we're going to push on through here.
Yeah. Hopefully you feel better, sir. Prayers for you and your health as we enter this holiday, Christmas week, I should say, holiday 2 weeks, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a time. We're going to talk Steelers versus Ravens recap. Before we get too far into that, we are going to talk about the inactives. Inactives for this game was Justin Fields being inactive this game. George Pickens, again, still dealing with that injury. Deshaun Elliott dealing with an injury. Dante Jackson dealing with an injury. And Larry Ogunjobi dealing with an injury. I think this is the first time that all 5 bodies on the inactives were actually hurt.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
not a good time for the health of the Pittsburgh Steelers team as a whole, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. Ravens inactives. James, you want to go over those guys?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure this is right because the original list I had Roquan Smith on it, and I've crossed him off, obviously, because he started and played the whole game. Jalen Armour Davis, Nelson Aguilar, Marcus Williams, Keaton Mitchell, Adisa Isaac, and Nick Simak. Those were their inactives for the game. So there was no surprises, even though the original list did have Roquan Smith on it. That was false.
Yeah. What a game. I don't even know kind of where to start with this. Very frustrated. James and I were texting throughout the game. You know, there's moments of excitement for guys like Ben Skoranek and these, you know, Michael Pruitt getting a touchdown and even Cordero Patterson, like some of these lower totem pole guys getting involved and doing things well. But it's like, where are the other guys? Where's the rest of the offense? Where's, you know, without George Pickens, we still have deep threats. We have Mike Williams. We have Calvin Austin, who's proving that he can be something more than what he's been used so far. We have Pat Freiermuth. We have Darnell Washington. I don't understand what's going on. I was so sick and tired of the run plays on first down. And Tom Brady, gosh, I didn't exactly enjoy listening to him, you know, call the game as a commentator. But at one point he said, you know, Pittsburgh keeps doing these run plays on first down and they're not having success. And then they get into second and long, which is an obvious for most teams passing play. And then you don't do very well on that. And then it's automatically leaving you at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, just these long, you know, third downs. It was so frustrating to watch over and over and over and over again. That, James, I don't know if I have faith that this team wants to do anything different or realizes they should.
At a certain point in this game, I felt like the offense was moving the ball pretty well in the first half. Definitely not on the first drive. That was a complete waste. But they started gaining some momentum. They started moving the ball with some consistency and even scoring. And then they just can't get out of their own way, you know? What was it, like the second or third drive where, you know, they have a nice healthy drive going all the way down the field. Russ gets a fantastic scramble and then gets popped and fumbles at the 4-yard line. And not only does he fumble at the 4, they take it from there and drive it all the way back for a touchdown. So it's a 14-point swing on that turnover. When the way they were driving down the field, you assume they would have finished with a touchdown because they were converting. And they were converting on third down. They were making a lot of successful runs, a lot of successful passes. Just frustrating. And even like you mentioned Ben Skoranek, early on in this game, they got him involved. He was playing great. He's catching the ball. He's getting 10, 15 yards at a time. And then he injures his hip.
Yep.
And then, you know, what appeared to be a bright spot and a possible solution going forward, trying to get this offense moving in the right direction, is immediately taken away. And there's not too many guys that do the same thing that he does. Because he's kind of like that wide receiver, tight end hybrid, you know, where he blocks way better than a wide receiver. And he's a bigger wide receiver too. So just frustrating, man, just frustrating. And as frustrated as I was with the offense, I was just as frustrated with the defense and their inability to tackle and get somebody on the ground.
Yep. Yeah, I can't agree with you more. The Russell Wilson turnover problems, the fumble was a 14-point swing. He literally had an interception that was a pick six that went for a 14-point swing. That's 28 points. 14 on the board for them and 14 off the board for us. That could have made a drastic difference in this game. Now, wouldn't have won. Well, no, we wouldn't have won that way because if you take 14 and add 14, we win by almost a full touchdown at that point. Just unfortunate that those things didn't happen, I guess. And the defense, I mean, Patrick Queen called out the entire defense after the game at some point. He said, if a guy's got to be in a certain position, you got to be in that certain position. I feel like that was a direct stab towards KZ. I think KZ was out of place a lot, but I think he's frustrated with a couple guys consistently with how that team and how the defense played. It just wasn't Steelers football in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I know people think of Pittsburgh Steelers football. They think about that, that tough run defense. They think about, a hard running offense. But in my opinion, I don't want to see Pittsburgh Steelers football if it's losing football. And I feel like there are times when I'm obviously we're 10-5. I'm not trying to complain about the season, but there's been times in this year where even with winning games, we still don't look solid. And so I don't want to come up here and be like, oh, this game isn't anything. Don't worry about it. It's just a tough one. Like, no, this is a game where the glaring issues we've had all year, the other team just managed to take advantage of. Mm. And that's my concern is I don't feel like this is just it was a tough game or tough 2 games since we lost the last 2. No, it's just we're actually losing because of the issues that we've had all year. Before we were making up for it. The defense was making plays. TJ Watt was making plays. Special teams was making plays. I mean, even in this game, it happened. We had a forced fumble on defense that unfortunately the Ravens picked up. There was a muff punt that unfortunately the Ravens picked up. So it's like we missed the opportunities to take advantage, and they did take advantage of opportunities. And so it's a combination of a lot of things. And I don't want to go too crazy into it, but just overall frustrated with how the coaching was, frustrated with how the playing was. I was very frustrated at the end of the game with under 2 minutes left, and we come out running the ball 3 out of 4 plays. Like, you're not even trying to win at that point. You're just trying to get to the locker room with your, confidence intact, ego intact. It's definitely not confidence. We talked about that because you said they should have been trying to build some confidence at the end of the game to go into next week, but instead we just run the ball. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. At the end of the game, I don't like the white flag going up. That's no good, man. You got to at least – it's very obvious there wasn't enough time to score enough points to win the game, right? We can all agree on that. But I wasn't done.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, but that being said, it's crazy to not at least try to push the ball down the field and at least try to gain some momentum and have some positivity going into next week. Because now you're coming off of 2 tough losses against 2 very good teams, but you're going against the Chiefs, who have the best record in the NFL now.
On a short week.
How are we supposed to feel better about this than we were the last 2 games? And I predict them to lose both of these last 2 games, by the way. That's the confidence that I had going into these games. And some of it was due to health, and some of it was due to the toughness of the matchup. But we just beat the Ravens like a month ago. So there's no reason for me to go into that game thinking that we weren't going to win, except I didn't like the way they played without George Pickens and Deshaun Elliott the week before. I thought there were some better bright spots on offense this weekend, but what we saw out of the defense is, honestly, it's alarming that Deshaun Elliott has covered up that much. I know that he's led the team in tackles many times this season, probably maybe even like 75% of the games he's led the team in tackles at this point, right? Games that he's actually active in. But that's crazy that the front 7 can't even slow somebody down like that. And I get it, the last 2 weeks were Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. It's the 2 best running backs in the entire NFL. So it's tough to beat your defense up too badly when those are the guys that you win against. But we shut down Derrick Henry the last time. So why in the world did he run all over us this time? The only tangible big difference was Deshaun Elliott and Larry Ogunjobi. And Larry Ogunjobi ain't making that much of a difference against the run.
Nope. Nope. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't even want to put. There's an aspect that you can't take away what George Pickens brings to the team. You can kind of minimize what Elliott brings to the team because he hasn't always been here, and I think they've done a good job from that. They've done a decent job from that position without him. But, and it's going to be but consistently this whole game. We're going to talk about something, but we're an NFL team. You got to figure it out. You got to do something. We have the weapons on offense still. We have the ability to do things. It's just the play calling was absolute dog water, in my opinion. You're setting your team up for failure by trying to force the run early. I would rather them not run the ball once in the first quarter and have the defense be backed off a little bit and then run for 12 down straight. Now, that's not football. That's never going to actually work. But I think it could have a better outcome than what we were doing. Like if you're passing the ball downfield and not these stupid screen passes, wide receiver screens, bubble screens, whatever, those things aren't working either. They haven't worked all year. We've had maybe 20 to 30% of them work successfully. I don't think it's worth calling them when you have the deep threats downfield and utilize the middle of the field. Use Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, Michael Pruitt's now getting more involved. Connor Hayward can still make plays. Calvin Austin is proving he's a deep threat. Mike Williams is a deep threat. Ben Skoronek's proving he can actually catch the ball and he isn't just a special teams body. Like these guys are making plays. Reward them and yourself by going out and allowing them to make more plays. Like forcing the run in this game was making me so frustrated and so mad as a fan and as someone who wants to see Pittsburgh do well, wants to see us win games, and wants to see us go far in a playoff run. Playing like that, trying to control the clock and trying to control a game like this against any of the major AFC teams, the Bills, the Chiefs, or the Ravens, is not going to go well for us. And so I'm just frustrated. I'm over it. James, if you want to bounce over and start talking numbers, we can. But man, I'm just mad about the performance.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. The flip side for me is that the run game was actually moderately successful. I mean, we had Jaylen Warren with a 4-yard average and Najee Harris with 4.7-yard average. That's probably one of the better games we've had on the season with a total average yards from our running back room. But just not enough when the other team's scoring every drive and you're not. You just have to be more aggressive passing the ball down the field. So, yeah, let's get into it. Russ is where we always start, and Russ is going to share a lot of the blame in this loss, unfortunately. The fumble that he had only 4 yards away from the end zone, he didn't need to take that hit. In the interest of longevity of the season, of the career, you should not want to take that hit. He should be slided to 6 instead of taking a hit at the 4. He was already well past the first down. All that mattered at that point was getting set for the next play and finishing this drive with a touchdown. And by taking that shot and coughing the ball up, he took all those opportunities away. And then the interception that he threw late in the game was just a bad pass. He was under a ton of pressure, no doubt about that. But he threw it in a place that only the defender could catch the ball. And because it was so far behind Pruitt couldn't even get a hand on him to slow him down. So you take the option of the receiver on the play from stopping it, turning into a pick six completely out by the position of where that was thrown. I mean, if it's to the sideline in front of Michael Pruitt, it's a completed pass, and we're not even talking about this. So the throw itself was not the worst idea in the world. It's the placement of where the ball ended up that's the major problem on that play.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Definitely the placement of the ball, definitely that fumble. He didn't need to take that hit. His numbers on the game weren't great. I mean, obviously the two touchdowns, sure, but also 2 turnovers. He threw for 217 yards, took 3 sacks for a loss of 19. I wasn't impressed with his decision-making. I wasn't impressed with his pocket presence. I wasn't impressed with his accuracy. He had the one deep bomb to Calvin Austin. He had a couple that comeback route to, actually, it wasn't even a comeback route. It was Ben Skoranek making a good play and giving Russell Wilson an option on a broken play where he scrambled out and was able to throw it to him for a first down. I don't understand how we go from seeing Russ play at the level that he's played in recent weeks, not obviously the last 2 weeks, but then to this. I don't know what's different. What are we doing different with training, with practice, with film? Like, is it because of the short week? Did we miss something we should have done? And that's what sucks about being just a fan, or even in our case, like, we watch the game a little bit more intently than others, but we still don't get to see or hear what happens really behind closed doors. And so it's frustrating as a fan and someone who watches more intently than the average person to not know why. The why to everything answers questions. And I have so many questions, and they are all like, why do we do this? Why aren't we doing that? Why are we not throwing the ball to Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington?
Yeah.
And so, because I don't think it can't be because Russell doesn't want to. It can't be. Like, why would you not want to throw to your monster tight ends? And so I'm just really curious to see what happens next week. Obviously this week, let's be clear, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, that's going to be no easy feat. And quite frankly, this is a game that Pittsburgh could come out and make a statement if they can play well enough, because Kansas City hasn't won a lot of games because they're a better team. Or, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but like a lot of their games have been close. They've won close games. Pittsburgh has a chance to come out and make a statement against the probably number one Super Bowl favorite, other than maybe the Lions or the Bills, to do something. So I'm hoping they can do something. The running game, like you said, was a 4.9 average between them, but I felt like it all came early. If you look at the second half rushing numbers compared to the first half, it's not even close. I think the average was more towards like 3 or 2.8 yards per carry in the second half. But Jaylen Warren led the team with 48 yards. Najee had 42. They sure a 4.0 and a 4.7 average. But when you're doing runs on first down and getting 3 yards or less, and then trying to pass the ball, throwing an incomplete pass, it's just tough to convert those 3rd and 7 and longer, 3rd and 5 even. And Russell Wilson obviously had the 3 rushes for 27 yards in the fumble. But I don't know if you want to talk more about Jaylen. I thought Jaylen ran hard. I thought Najee had one really tough running game or running play that we actually texted about. Just not satisfied in the slightest with the running attack.
Yep, not able to be consistent with it is the key here. Looking at it from retrospective, how it went and how the numbers look and everything like that. I mean, Najee averages almost 5 yards a carry yesterday with his long of 11, which means he was having a lot of successful runs. But it just wasn't enough in totality to keep drives going. And one of the things that frustrated me the most was probably I feel like Russ is reverting to like B-level Madden skill quarterback when he feels pressure. He just scrambles straight back. And when you go straight back, all the blocking goes out the window because now you have opened up the pass rush windows for every single pass rusher to have very easy paths around their offensive line that's attempting to block them. So by him bailing on the pocket and going straight back, darn near every time it feels like he puts himself in awful positions and he puts the offensive linemen in awful positions too. And it's just not good enough. If they can't clean this up, start getting the ball out quicker, more efficiently, and start converting on some of these third downs more frequently, it'll be ugly against the Chiefs too.
Yep. It's not going to be a fun time at all. Looking at the receiving numbers, Calvin Austin, 4 receptions for 65 yards. His long was that 44-yarder, which came on a first down play, I might add. Just dropping that in there real quick. Jaylen Warren, 5 catches for 44 yards. Van Jefferson, 2 for 27. Ben Skowronek, 2 for 25. Mike Williams, 3 for 24. Pat Freiermuth, 3 catches for 16 yards. Cordarrelle Patterson, 1 for 12, which was obviously the touchdown. Connor Hayward, 1 for 3. And Michael Pruitt, 1 for 1, which was that 1-yard touchdown in the back of the end zone. Again, the ball got passed around. I just feel like it was always happening. I feel like they wait to pass the ball. They want to see they come out like, hey, let's see if we can establish the run. Let's give it a quarter and a half. And then if we can't, or if we're down, then we'll like, I'm not saying they're coming out with that plan, but that's what's happening. And it's not working. We could have put those pass yards up in the first half. And we have seen that happen. Like, I just want to see more. And I'm impressed with these guys. When the ball's on point, these guys are catching balls. Calvin Austin's making phenomenal catches deep down the field. I mean, even Van Jefferson's making plays. Ben Skoranek, like we talked about. Mike Williams was 3 for 3. Pat Freiermuth, the quality hands that he is, was 3 for 3 again. Like, he's always consistent. Connor Hayward 1 for 1. Like, all these guys are catching everything. Michael Pruitt and Najee Harris had 2 incompletes thrown their way. And then Calvin Austin had 1. Van Jefferson had 1, which I think might have been the pick 6. Or maybe that was Michael Pruitt. I can't remember. Pruitt. These guys are proving they have hands. Cordarrelle Patterson's catch wasn't easy, but he freaking made that work. And so I really hope that Pittsburgh, somebody in that room, I don't care if it's Mike Tomlin or Arthur Smith, says, hey, look, we're not doing well when we try to run the ball early in the game or on early downs. Let's try to make it to where we get second and manageable and then have the option to run or pass rather than trying to – I just feel like they're trying to force the run on first downs, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan at all.
Yeah, it's got to be less predictable. Time after time, our opponents are saying that they knew exactly what was going to happen on what plays. So got to switch it up, got to do something better. I'm still in the corner of they've got to get it more to the tight ends and the appropriate ones at that. I don't mind getting Connor Hayward involved in the game. I don't mind getting Michael Pruitt involved in the game. But if it's at the expense of Darnell Washington being involved in the game, I'm not a fan of it. Because when Connor Hayward gets the ball, he's smaller than the guy that's going to be tackling him. And when Darnell Washington gets the ball, people dread trying to tackle him. And that's 2 weeks in a row with no targets. Not a single one. So we're losing in physicality, and we're not throwing the ball to the guy who everyone's scared to tackle. And he's not a running back, so you can't hand it to him. If you want to win the physicality battle, I don't know, maybe involve the guys that are really, really physical when the ball's in their hand in the passing game, and maybe that'll help out a little bit.
Yep.
So, yeah, getting real tired of that, no doubt about it. Offensive line-wise, Cody, did anybody really stick out at you? I felt like there was one play Mason McCormick completely whiffed on his guy and led to quick pressure on Russ. But outside of that, I didn't think he had an awful game. What about you? Did anybody stick out really bad or really good?
No, and you know, that's part of that's because I don't think I watch for it all the time. I think offensive line is one of the positions I watch less of when I'm watching the game. I will say, however, that the nasty that we've been looking for. We've talked about it for the last 2 or 3 years. The nasty, the grittiness, the hey, when I meet you in the hole or when my running back gets stuffed, I'm going to get in there and push behind you. We saw it a lot in the beginning of the year, I felt like. It's fading fast. I don't know if it's and I think they talked about that in the game, that they felt like Frazier and McCormick were getting gassed a little bit and getting tired. And, you know, their rookie year, they basically went from college football to the combine to spring training, rookie camp, regular camp, train, like all this stuff. And it's been nonstop for them. And I agree, but it's also to the aspect of like, these guys are professional athletes. We need to figure out a way to get them 100% within the week while keeping them warmed up and ready to go. Like, there's a way to do that. And I just don't feel like it's being done. I feel like something, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe there's something with, you know, the strength and conditioning coordinator or the way that we're doing, you know, cardio practice or whatever it is during the week that these guys, I mean, how many hamstring injuries are we dealing with right now? So many hamstrings, so many soft tissue injuries that I feel like that's a conditioning thing to some extent. It's either they're over fatigued and these muscles are getting strained, or they're not being kept warm enough throughout the week that when they try to use them again, that they're tightening up, they're getting overstretched, they're, you know, whatever it is. I feel like that with the number of hamstring injuries I've seen, that's where my question automatically goes to, I should say.
Yeah, I guess mine doesn't go there per se, especially when we're looking at some of these, like a groin injury is not something that you can condition. The back injury of Dante Jackson, he's just been injured all year long, and that's just the story of his career. And even Justin Fields, he got hit while sliding, which injured his abdomen. And I don't look at that and say that that was something that could have been prevented through better stretching or something. It's bad luck in a game. It's an extremely physical game, and that's going to happen sometimes. But I don't like the hamstrings either. I feel like those just kind of pop up out of nowhere, and I don't think there's been too many of them this year. It's just been Pickens and Deshaun Elliott, right? Has there been anybody else this season with a hamstring?
I think there was more earlier in the year.
They're the only two right now.
Yeah, those are only two right now. Roman Wilson was dealing with a hamstring injury. Tyler Matakevich had a hamstring injury. Nick Herbig had an hamstring injury. Justin Fields early in the year had an hamstring injury. That was all just from week 8. I just pulled up a random week injury report, and those were all the hamstrings.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's definitely been around a little bit more, but I'm trying to look at these later weeks. Week 13. Corey Trice Jr. hamstring injury. I feel it's been a consistent thing. Dante Jackson hamstring injury. It's been enough that it's been more than I'm used to seeing.
Yeah.
And I know that we've had a recent strength and conditioning coach change. So that's kind of where my question just goes to. As like the sports medicine background that I have, it draws me to be like, why are we dealing with these issues, the fatigue, the injuries, all these things? And quite frankly, maybe that's it. Maybe I shouldn't be as mad about the play calling as the execution. Maybe that's what it is, that these guys are just gassed, they're hurt, they're sore. I remember what it was like in high school football, and I wanted to take an ice bath after every practice. These guys are playing in the National Football League, and they're getting hurt, they're getting sore. None of these guys, if you talk to any NFL player or professional athlete, none of them are 100%. Not
No.
one of them. After the year starts, you're like on 98 and working down and trying to keep it as high as you can. So hopefully something else can happen. But I don't know what needs to change, if it's the play calling or if these guys need, take an extra day off and or stretch more or what. But that's just questions that I have kind of internally that I'm vocalizing right now, I guess.
Well, let's move on to the defense because there's plenty more venom for these guys the way they played this time around.
Oh, yeah.
I've been concerned for a long time that the defensive line talent was not good enough besides Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton, and it kind of reared its ugly head in this game. With Larry Ogunjobi out, that put Dean Lowry in a starting position, and Dean definitely did not make any splash in this game. That involved Isaiah Loudermilk a lot. Montravius Adams was involved a decent amount in this game. And nobody really stepped up against the run except for a couple of times Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton did. Otherwise, the rest of them were basically doormats getting walked all over and ran all over. And just very, very frustrating to see. And when you look at the group of guys, it's not like you can say, well, at least we got this guy. He didn't play in this game, and he might be the future of the position. No, Logan Lee, the 6th-round pick from last year, he ain't the answer either, man. So
Nope.
We really got to get back in the lab. Hopefully Larry Ogunjobi can play this upcoming week, although I kind of doubt it on a short week. It's not good enough, man. You got to be holding your ground. You can't be allowing wide open, huge, massive running lanes that Derrick Henry can run through without anybody even getting a finger on him. That just doesn't work. It doesn't work, man.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. I thought Cam had an okay game, and then other than that, it was pretty mute from everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we're used to seeing. I want to see Keanu Benton get more involved and be more consistent. Obviously, Larry Ogunjobi was out. Got to see Lowry, got to see Loudermilk. Just really, really hoping to see more from these guys sooner or later. And it needs to be sooner rather than later, because things aren't going to get easier. We got, the Bengals week 18 is about the easiest quote unquote game we're going to have the rest of the way. And that's still a division game, so it's not going to be easy. Chiefs this week is going to be rough, and then the Bengals, and then it's playoffs. We're guaranteed to be in We know we're in. Got to figure it out and got to do something about it.
Yeah. Because the last thing we want to do is mess around, lose these last 2 games, and end up going into Buffalo week 1. That's a great way to get bounced out of the first round of the playoffs. So I'd rather not see that. You want to go outside linebackers or middle linebackers next?
Let's go outside because quite frankly, I honestly think that was the bigger disappointment this week, which I'm not used to saying. I really don't think we saw a whole lot out of the pass rush or the run stopping ability of TJ Watt. We got to see, I believe at one point, who came in at one point. I mean, obviously we saw Nick Herbig as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was upset with how he performed. There was one play early in the game where he, I felt like their decision all game long was to shut down Lamar Jackson. If they ever do that option play, favor Lamar and hopefully the rest of the defense can rally and get Derrick Henry. That backfired immediately, over and over and over again. I almost would have rather forced Lamar to have the ball and try to force a fumble out of that than give it to Derrick Henry and get some head of steam rolling with him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was upset with overall how the defense played in that situation. There's one play, I think it was the play that Isaiah Likely scored on, where Landon Roberts was lined up in an outside linebacker position, and I was very confused about why or how that happened. So probably just because of the formation and who we had on the field, but still really, really weird.
They did some stuff formationally this week that I'm not used to seeing them do, where it was like a nickel defense, but instead of a third corner, you had a third middle linebacker. And that's why we saw Mark Robinson a couple of times in this game. It was not in place of another middle linebacker. He was out there in addition to them. And actually, Mark Robinson made a couple plays in the short amount of time he was out there. So that was one of the few bright spots on the defensive side. I have to say, Alex Highsmith, I thought, had a very nice game. Got himself another sack in this game. Just constantly providing pressure and played strong against the run as well, but nowhere near enough out of the other guys on the edge. And even the middle linebackers, to a degree, we get like one play out of Landon Roberts, and then the next 2 or 3, he's out of position or getting run right by. Patrick Queen, not his strongest game. Peyton Wilson, not his strongest game. You had 5 different middle linebackers on the field throughout the course of this game, and several times where there were 3 of them at the same time, and it just wasn't enough, man. They were unable to get to the right spots to get Derrick Henry on the ground, and just got ran all over all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good feeling to watch either. Just how manhandled Pittsburgh's defense was all game long. Even Justin Hill came in and got that really big run. I think that was early before he went out with that concussion injury, which, prayers up to him as well. But just the lack of ability to corral any of these runners was really, really frustrating to watch. Bouncing to you want to stick with middle linebackers for a second, or do you want to jump?
No, I'm done with them.
Okay. Secondary wise, I mean, Minkah has his first pick of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That was a plus.
And I thought overall Minkah had a nice game. He had some clutch tackles. He had that interception. Minka's had a nice season. He just hasn't had the splash plays that everybody always demands of him. He even has had a blocked kick earlier in the year that they called back on what was a completely BS penalty. But yeah, that's the problem, is that we're going to look at this game. We're going to say Minkah played good, and the rest of the secondary basically played bad. I didn't think Joey Porter was awful before getting injured, but that's what happens when you ask a corner to be the primary person stopping Derrick Henry. You're not going to have good results. That's why the other guys need to get there and get him down, or at least slow him down before that happens. So most of this game, you had James Pierre and Corey Trice as your starting outside corners, and Vinny Bishop in a nickel. So we're talking about 2 undrafted guys in a 6th or 7th round pick. That's what was our starting cornerback group. So just, yeah. And I didn't think that Corey Trice was bad by any means, but none of these guys got any pass breakups in the game. They weren't even in position for that.
No, because we were playing soft zone, it felt like the whole game, or very off man to man, where these guys were just having all the room in the world to run all over us. I don't know. I really hope that something can change. I hope that and you got to give understanding where it's due. Corey Trice has been injured most of the year. He's finally back. He's not up to speed where everyone else is. He's a fresh body, sure, but he's not in the rhythm of playing football right now. And he's got to get to that point, which is unfortunate. That's what, part of the preseason's for. It's seeing your younger guys and seeing the back of the roster. And it's also kind of a warm up for the guys that are going to start week one. And Corey Trice, unfortunately, hasn't really had that time to get in and develop that that comfortability or the confidence. So hopefully that can change moving forward, but I definitely got to see something change. Again, the lack of Jalen Elliott and the lack of Joey Porter Jr. Yeah, I mean all of them. There was a lot of guys missing on that defense that really, really hurt. More than I think we were ready for.
Through most of this game, you had one starter in the secondary, and that was Minkah. Everybody else was injured. So that's tough to slow anybody down, let alone a Lamar Jackson who's having his best season as a passer in his career right now. And through the first half of the game, they were actually holding him to a pretty low completion percentage, and then he just started completing everything in the second half. One thing I'll take as an optimistic thing from this game is that before Joey Porter got hurt, they were actually rotating Corey Trice in with James Pierre. So that shows me that was probably part of the game plan, was to rotate the two of those to try to get Corey Trice kind of eased into things. And then their hand got forced when Joey Porter got injured and he had no choice but to play the rest of the way. But I at least like that he has shown enough in practice for them to have enough confidence that they wanted to get him on the field and felt that he had earned the ability to split reps with James Pierre. So
yep,
it's a baby step in the right direction, but it is a step.
Yeah. Looking at special teams, Jalen Warren had a kick return for 34 yards. Cordell Patterson had 1 for 18. Punting, Corliss Waitman, 5 for 247 yards, 49.5 average, 3 inside the 20. So that's good. Chris Boswell, 1 for 1 on field goals and 2 for 2 on extra points. Boz for president as always.
Yep.
That wraps up talking about the game. If you guys have any input you want to share about the game, please feel free to message us or comment on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Injury report for the game. Obviously, Joey Porter Jr. didn't come back in the game. Also, Ben Skoranek dealing. Well, yeah. I don't know. He came back and then he went back out
in the game, but both of them could not continue after attempting to play. In Mike Tomlin's press conference today, he indicated that we should not expect anyone who was injured in that game to be good to go on Wednesday because it's such a short turnaround. So that sucks because you might be down both your starting corners against the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yep, that'll be an interesting time for sure.
Yeah.
Again, this unfortunately was just a rough game to watch, not enjoyable at all. Hopefully Pittsburgh can turn around and at least put something watchable on Christmas Day at 1:00 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, we can't thank you guys enough for watching. If you're on YouTube or listening, wherever you find your podcast at, don't forget to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Make James very happy. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.